It's baseball chaos, and we're talking Diamondbacks. The who? Yeah, we're talking Diamondbacks for the first time in baseball chaos. We're talking about another team besides the Mariners. So let's get into it.
One, and now Walker lines one arrow can fly, can't get down.
Walker again sends a drive and stirred up. It goes and names like Willie Mays.
Smith high towards the corner and hang on, he's done it again. David Smith, 3 homers, and 8 RBI.
Welcome back to Touching Bases Podcast. Today, I have Aaron Hughes, who is a writer for the Arizona Diamondbacks Sports Illustrated page, which is pretty nice that you decided to join me today. He's also a host of Good Morning Ball. If you guys want to go ahead and check out any of his links, they're going to be down in the description. Aaron, thank you, dude, for joining me. Let's talk some D-backs.
Of course, man. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And to dive into things, because there's so much movement going on as we keep hitting the refresh button on Twitter and seeing what's happening. So far, Diamondbacks are quiet, but that is on the Twitter sphere. You know more than I do. I think more than a lot of other people do. So I will just go with the more obvious, outspoken Diamondbacks organization. I would say a problem, and that would be Jordan Montgomery. Now, he's the only one I've seen a mention on of shopping for trades, but at this point, do you think there's anything legitimately cooking right now, or is his value so low that it's going to be hard to get him off this team?
I think that as we are talking about Montgomery, his value is steadily increasing, actually, because of the pitcher market that we have right now. I mean, he's on a 1-year, $22 million deal. If you look at the other contracts that we've seen, I mean, Luis Severino, Frankie Montas, especially, Matthew Boyd was another one that was big. You know, Max Fried got that big deal. If you're looking at Montgomery's track record, it's solid. There's a general belief around the industry that he's gonna rebound. You know, there's definite interest from some teams. I know we heard for sure that the Diamondbacks and the Cubs were having some conversations, and the Diamondbacks offered Montgomery for Bellinger, and that fell through.
Yeah, I would.
But
I mean, I if I were the Cubs, I wouldn't take that offer. It
yeah, it's
really
a big
wouldn't.
contract for big contract thing, but it's
Yeah.
just it's tough to find a fit there because of the weird situation that he's in, right? But I I'm pretty sure that the D-backs are going to look to find a trade partner for that because the money, it just makes so much sense to get that off the books. It'll free you up to do so much other stuff, and they have a serious excess in starting pitching.
And I would
You know,
say a
six guys.
two-part question to this from your perspective. I mean, do you think, and I think this is possible, do you think that the ballpark factor in Arizona played a role in his 6.23 ERA last season?
Well, if you look at the numbers, Chase Field actually plays a little bit below average offensively because of the humidor or whatever they're calling it now.
Yeah.
You know, the elevation is higher, but I think that a lot of the problem could have been the I guess the heat for him. He was complaining about it pretty often throughout the year.
Yeah, he was
Um,
complaining about the humidity, which
hmm Yeah,
I
that's something that other guys have voiced too, like Merrill Kelly. He was having cramping issues. Uh,
because I always
but as someone
feel
who's
Arizona
lived in
is dry.
Arizona,
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
always think of Arizona as dry versus like South Texas, like
that's the
Houston.
famous thing. It's a dry heat, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I enjoyed it personally, so that's why I have my
hmm
opinion on there. But I wasn't sure if like maybe that's a selling point for the Diamondbacks as far as meeting with teams, and it's like, hey, Chicago, where it's -12, here's he's going to be better for you in the dry cold versus the humid Phoenix sun and all that stuff.
hmm
And maybe that did play a role there. And I mean, also another side of it, do you think that preparation time that he claims was an issue where he fired Scott Boras played a role in there too? Like he just couldn't prep, he wasn't ready, but he still didn't seem to get it together through the entire season.
I'm sure there was something there. I mean, probably a deteriorating relationship between the two,
Yeah.
Boris and Montgomery, after that whole free agency debacle. You had
Yeah.
Snell stand up for Boris, and he's having a much better offseason now. But
Yeah. Yeah. That seemed to work
last
for him.
offseason was just bad. And
Hmm.
there's no real way around that. And we had Ken Kendrick, the Diamondbacks owner, speaking out against Montgomery
Hmm.
afterwards on the Burns and Gambo show. Um, and things there might not be exactly great. Mike Hazen and his team reached out to Montgomery. I know Lavello reached out, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, to Montgomery to check in, and he's staying fit. He's working out. Uh, Everyone's convinced that Montgomery's going to be in great shape going into next year, going to be more fit, more ready to pitch. But you never know. Maybe this is the point where Montgomery hit a wall and this is who he is now. He's this guy who's going to have that 6 ERA. Or maybe he's going to rebound next year and have a 3.1 ERA and he's going to win the Cy Young Award.
Yeah.
You don't know. And that's
Yeah.
part of the risk of trading him.
Well, that's the thing. He has a great track record. Like to say, that's the reason why I'm scared because his. I mean, if you go off of 2024, let's just pull up going off Savant. I mean, his pitch run value is negative 27, which is obviously horrible. But if you look at the year before with Texas, he had 19. He was in 93rd percentile as far as pitch run value, and he had 3.20 ERA. And I mean, I think that's what the Diamondbacks were hoping for. And of course, like I think you're saying, it might just be a bad relationship. And on top of that, Boris getting fired and not getting the contract he wanted, and then going from, I guess Texas to Arizona, which the weather, I don't know if I buy it entirely, but that's just me. But I if he can bounce back to being 2023 good, then I would see absolutely the Cubs should trade Bellinger since they're trying to get him off the books anyways, and they only have to pay a year for him, and maybe it gives him an opportunity to have a comeback, and that would fill a lot of slots for the Cubs. That's that's just my take on it. I just wasn't sure how many teams are in on Montgomery and who are willing to take that risk, because there is a risk, but luckily he's healthy, so that's a positive.
I mean, we don't know for sure. It could be a team that has payroll flexibility because they're maybe not competing right away and they take a flyer on Montgomery and try to flip him at the deadline.
Hmm.
It could be, um, a team that's ready to compete with a lot of money and wants to spend. Maybe the Red Sox, who were out here going for Crochet, who are doing that, maybe they go for a flip trade. They've been connected to Montgomery before. Maybe it's another team. I don't want to speculate too much here or tie him to teams that might have want nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
But we really don't know right now, and it's the Montgomery market is really gonna be something that if they don't get it done first, it's gonna be something we're gonna be talking about all off season until it happens,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's the main focus at this point. But it also makes me wonder what are the Diamondbacks looking to get back from him? Like I'm assuming there's targets, first base, possibly outfield, possibly DH, possibly. You lost Jock Peterson and Christian Walker so far. Nothing saying that they can't come back, but could this be the starting point of looking to fill those replacements, or do you think they're more so looking to sign a first baseman or DH this winter?
Okay, yeah. So guys who are leaving, Walker and Jock Peterson are the obvious ones. We
Yeah,
also have Randall Grichuk, who was awesome for them.
yeah.
Josh Bell, who came in mid-season and was great. But those are some big holes to fill.
Hmm.
Right now, you have Pavin Smith probably lined up to play first base if nothing changes, and he can play. He can play. He's a good bat, especially in the clutch. He always finds a way to come through. But I'm sure that the team would probably like to upgrade those positions, especially in DH, because they don't have a clear successor to that position. Right? And they're definitely going to want to fill out first base and DH, and they need, more than anything, they need a closer, a bona fide back end pitcher, more help in the bullpen.
Seawald didn't work out for you guys.
Seawald was excellent in 2023.
3, yeah.
2024, he started out, well, he was hurt,
Mhm.
and then he was great. And then in July, he just hit a wall.
Yeah.
And, it could have been something health related. I know he went back on the injured list. Or it could have just been something with mechanics. Who knows?
Yeah.
But he's a free agent now. They've moved on. And Hazen is very involved in the free agent market when it comes to bullpen. He's also involved in the trade market. He said that he's got ties to both and that there's options out there for both and that the D-backs will find some help there. And that's something we're all waiting on because we've needed it for a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, Pavin Smith, I know you're going off of the Fangraphs roster, I believe, right? Something similar to that. At least that's what's expected. But then I also saw what you posted, and I actually agreed with you more as far as the lineup goes.
Tim
And
Tala, yeah.
yeah, Tim Tawa, he's killing it in AAA, and I have never heard anybody talk about him, at least like outside the Diamondbacks kind of circle. Like he was putting up some freaking numbers down there last season. I mean, 8% walk rate, 20% K rate, a little high, but it's decreasing every year. And he's slugging 616 and has an average of 304. That's in AAA. I know it's a big jump, but every season except for 2022, he's put up a higher than 100 WRC plus, and last season he put up 139 WRC plus. I are you as high on him as I am? Like, why not have him be the first baseman and have Pavin Smith be DH? And is that enough?
I'm not sure if it's enough, but on Tawa, I'm a huge fan of Tawa.
Okay.
I think that he absolutely has the potential to come up to the majors and maybe rake, maybe not to the same levels, but I think that he's going to be a solid player. But at the same time, he's a super utility player, right? He can play every position. He hasn't caught or pitched. That's the only thing.
Yeah. Yeah. We can get him pitching. Like,
Dylan Moore type almost since we were on the Mariners. But
Mhm.
Tawa, his bat is solid in the minors. I'm not sure how it's going to translate. But he's definitely got the defensive versatility, and I don't know if the D-backs are going to want to lock him into first base. Maybe there's some sort of situation there, him and Pavin figuring out platoon almost, or like he plays it some days. Pavin gets some DH time because he's not exactly the best defensively.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that Tawa is going to play some sort of role. He's on the 40-man roster now. Um, so he is going to come up next year, almost certainly. But we're just going to have to wait and see if that's going to be in a bigger role with him filling some time in that first base role, or if the D-backs are going to go out and supplement that position and he's going to be more of a utility player, right?
Yeah.
They also have Blaze Alexander, who's played second base, shortstop, third base. They have a ton of outfielders, between the standard Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Corbin Carroll, Jake McCarthy, Alek Thomas. Then they have Jorge Barossa,
Yeah.
right? But
And
yeah, we'll see.
Jorge, I don't think has gotten a chance to really prove it himself. I mean, he only played in like what, a month and batted
Mhm.
176. So I don't think he has enough time in to prove himself yet. So I think he's a good bench spot for fill-in. Alek Thomas was, I mean, understand he only had like 100 plate appearances, but it wasn't the 2023 playoff guy that we saw. Um,
Yeah. Alec was dealing with a lot of injuries last year.
yeah,
He was battling them basically throughout the whole season. Never got a chance to get on his feet really. That hamstring.
yeah,
And then other stuff with his legs. And Alec is a premier center fielder, right? I mean, he has platinum glove, triple platinum glove type defense if you give him a chance out there. It's the bat that we're talking about. The bat's going to make or break him as an everyday major league player, right? While
Yeah.
he was coming up, he was a top prospect for a long time, but that bat, it's always been the thing that's held him back. Um, and what we've seen in his time at the majors is the power is there. He hits the ball into the ground, he pulls it to the right side, and that's really slowed him. The playoffs were amazing, and everyone saw what Alek can be. And with that defense, there's a big reason why a lot of teams are dreaming on him. We've had reports, and Mike Hazen's come out and said that there's about as many teams that want Alek Thomas as want Jake McCarthy, who's coming off an excellent season, like
Yeah.
a very good season with the D-backs in the major leagues. Jake's a little bit further above in the running department, a little faster. He's going to give you more on the base pass. Alek probably a little more in the field, but Jake has proven himself as a hitter. And,
Yeah.
I think that shows that other teams still believe that Alek has the potential to break out. Um, I'd love to dream on it too. I'm not sure if he's going to be the one that gets traded. The D-backs have an excess, and at this point, it feels like a ritual that every year they trade a left-hand hitting outfielder, like they did last year and the year before.
Yeah.
Um, and this year, it could be Alek Thomas, it could be Jake McCarthy, and that could be the thing that either gets them a big bat or a big arm that they need. Right?
I mean, I would personally rather trade Alek Thomas than McCarthy. McCarthy just did so good last year. I mean, he is a very, very intense pull hitter as far as his power goes. Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
every home run was in the corner, like of right field. And that is, he was just solid. I understand he's not a crazy power hitter, which I don't know if that's a big bat that you really want, but I mean, he batted 285 last year out of almost 500 plate appearances. That's solid consistency. His OPS was 749. He's above average by quite a bit too, especially
Mm-hmm.
for a name that you're not going crazy about. And then Alek Thomas, hamstring issue at 24. That is worrisome for me because we all saw what Mike Trout has been dealing with when it comes to hamstring issues and knee issues, and what is that going to turn into? And the biggest thing with Alek Thomas, I would say, is his base running ability was amazing, at least 2023. So if he's being slowed down there, it's like, okay, his value is really dropping, at least for the Diamondbacks perspective when they do have this surplus. I would rather keep Jake McCarthy. That's just me. As a fan yourself, who would you rather see stay?
I think that a lot of people would be on your side of saying that Jake is probably the more. Well, a lot of people would rather keep Jake. I'd say because he is more proven. But
Mhm.
Alek's a fan favorite too.
Yeah,
Gonna
his
sting either
playoff
way.
his playoff time that made that I felt like cemented a foot in that team is in that organization. Even
Yeah.
though last year was probably what dug out the other foot. But Jake McCarthy did just such a good job. And then you still have Pavin Smith, who
He
he's an
can stand
outfielder.
out in right field. He
Yeah,
can stand there.
he can stand there, and I know this is gonna piss off a lot of Diamondbacks fans, but Gurriel, do you really need him? Is he really that great?
He's pretty good. I mean, if you go to the numbers, over the last couple of years, I mean, in Arizona is where he really solidified himself. He has the power. He's a very important right-handed power bat for the team, especially after they lost Christian Walker and Randall Grichuk right now. He's a leader in the outfield. He's much better defensively than he looks. I mean, he takes some funky routes, but he more often than not gets the ball.
Oh, he's got good
Um,
range. Yeah, he's in the 83rd percentile. I'm just using
yeah,
baseball savant because it's easy, but at the same time, his bat is it's rather, I don't know, his batting run value is rather
hmm
mediocre at 3.
Yeah, last year was, if you go back to 2023, I think that was more symbolic of what got him that deal with the D-backs.
Yeah,
But
and that was his
2024 was
fielding.
kind of a streaky year for him. That's kind of who he is. He's a little more streaky, but, he can go on runs where he really carries the offense. And it is important. His leadership's important.
So
His
he's the veteran
power
guy
is important.
that you're.
He is more of a veteran guy at this
Yeah.
point, but I
Okay.
think that his power bat from the right hand side especially brings enough value to the team that they're gonna want to keep him.
Okay. And
Um,
would you say he's the DH most likely?
really depends on who they bring in, right? Like if they get another
Yeah.
athletic outfielder somehow, or if eventually Drew Jones or someone like that comes up. Yeah, then he'll probably end up transitioning into that, but I don't think that he's signed on a long enough deal to have to get to that point.
Okay.
I think for now he's good enough in the outfield that the team would probably want to bring in another even better bat, maybe another big bat, that
What
can
at an
stay in that
outfield
DH spot.
or okay at a DH spot? Okay. Or would
Yeah,
fill it.
maybe who knows, like a Carlos Santana type, right? Someone who can fill
Yeah.
in at first base,
Competition for him right now.
or DH. Yeah, there's some teams that want him for sure.
Yeah. As far as a power
Mariners,
bat
Twins.
and cheap, that's a
It's a
good.
big one.
Yeah.
Um, but it's definitely a name that we've heard floated around, and it would fit.
What is
So
what is the stance on Walker? Like, are they is I should start with this. I don't want to just hit on Walker too much, but as a Mariners fan, I know what has been announced and is perceived to be the amount of money being able to be spent on this offseason. We don't know if that is an amount of money that includes arbitration costs whenever we get to that point, or if it's after arbitration that's been allowed to spend, and that's about 16 million, 15 million, somewhere around there, which is not a lot. You have an owner he's a card collector. He's a huge fan of this team. He invests, as we saw last year, to try to get this team to the World Series. What is the spending? How much money do they have this offseason to go get the team that they want?
I don't know I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but Kendrick's general stance has been every penny that the team makes and earns through revenue sharing, through playoff money, through tickets sold and food, it all goes right back into the roster, right? He
Good
invests it
business.
all back in. Um, he's a rich guy, but he's also a guy who he's been true to his word, and sometimes he's a little too honest, right, with the Montgomery thing. But
I liked it.
he's certainly not against investing money into the team,
Yeah.
and we saw that after 2023. He went out, he got Eduardo Rodriguez, he signed Lourdes Gurriel Jr. back. He went out and he got Jock Peterson and Randall Grichuk. He got Jordan Montgomery. He spent that money. You can argue if that Jordan Montgomery deal was maybe a little like spending money for the sake of spending money, jumping in at the last minute. But it was a sign of an owner who wants to win.
Yeah.
And he said that the team is going to be around the same payroll this year as it was last year. A lot's coming off the books
Yeah.
between
A
Walker,
lot.
Jock, Randall, Sewald, Bell, etc. Scott McGuff, and we're gonna see where that takes us. The Madison Bumgarner deal's not on the books anymore, I believe. So we'll see how much is going to be able to come back. And if you want to get onto that Walker topic, I'm not sure how realistic it is. 3 years, 60 million, close to 70 million is probably what you're looking at, right? The D-backs have a lot of needs. I don't know if they can spend 23-ish million a year on first base on a now 34-year-old first baseman.
Hmm.
Um, but he was really important to them. from a clubhouse standpoint, from a player standpoint, he was someone who was homegrown pretty much. They picked him up off waivers and turned him into the guy he is today. I mean, he really grew himself into an everyday first baseman at a major league level behind Paul Goldschmidt. And it'd suck to not see him come back, but I'm not really sure how realistic it is to get the hopes up for fans to keep Walker.
Well, I mean, you're correct, and that's I decided to take a look at that. The Bumgardner money does come off the books, and as far as according to Spotrac, I don't know if this is super accurate, but the average salary was 17 million. So with Jock Peterson coming off the books and Madison Bumgardner, I feel like they could afford it if they were to maintain the salary that they had last year. If they were
Yeah,
to bring him
so
on, because I'm just seeing a report now that's coming out. Of course, the Mariners are like all over him, and this is from Daniel Kramer, the Seattle, not Seattle Times. Sorry, he is MLB.com's Seattle
mhm.
cover. Says the Mariners have had conversations about free agent Christian Walker, a source says, but the price is high. Separately, multiple sources told Mark Feinsand, that the industry impression is that Luis Castillo is currently available for the trade market. So Luis Castillo is obviously getting pushed around, but that means that if that is a trade that happens, which, as we were talking before we started recording, it seems to be a Red Sox Mariners thing with Tristan Casas. I don't agree with that. I think that's giving up too much, but I'm assuming that the plan is that offloads the money so they can get Christian Walker.
I could see it.
I know this is off topic to the Diamondbacks, but that is a risk of the Diamondbacks not being able to bring him on, even though I would assume they have the money to re-sign him.
I think the Diamondbacks might have the money, but I don't know if they want to allocate it all in one spot because there are so many needs that they need to fill,
What are
and it's not exactly cheap needs.
what are the needs that you would say and as a priority, like the top 3 needs?
Back end reliever, DH, first base. That's probably the three biggest. And if you want to split the money between that, if you want to bring back Jock and Christian Walker, that's probably going to cost you around, I'd say, just an estimate of 36 million per year. Probably Jock on a 1 to 2 year deal, Walker on a 3 year deal. And that's a lot of money, and I'm not sure if that limits them from going out and spending on a reliever, or if they want to fortify something else. Of course, this can all change with a trade of Jordan Montgomery. That's a lot of money that would come off the books, and I think that's why a lot of fans are so into pushing for that trade.
Yeah.
But there's definitely been some reports out there of the D-backs could certainly keep one of Jock Peterson and Christian Walker. There's no way that they can keep both.
Mm-mm.
They can keep one, and maybe they keep neither. But it's possible that they can
Well,
get
I
Christian Walker
think
back.
if I was a Diamondbacks fan talking to Kendricks, I would say bring back Christian Walker. He's our guy. And for DH, it's JD Martinez or it's Justin Turner.
Yeah, I actually wrote a story pretty recently on JD Martinez.
Oh, really? Okay, I missed it.
Yeah, that's the fit is there. They've had him on the team before. He's kind of a franchise legend almost for his half season he spent
Yeah.
in Arizona. Um, but I think Fangraphs has him estimated at 9 million, which much cheaper option. I could see it. Um, Justin Turner is another one. I think Justin Turner might be even more realistic.
Yeah.
You know,
Money
I
wise.
think money wise and fit wise, because I'm not sure what JD Martinez's situation is playing wise for next year. I think he said that if the right deal comes around and it makes sense, that he's open to playing again. I'm not sure if that sounds like somebody who necessarily is driven to come back um, and compete for the World Series like the D-backs are.
Hmm.
So we'll see on that front. I know Justin Turner had a nice second half with the Mariners last year.
Hmm.
Um, he was decent with the Blue Jays as well.
Yeah, good
He's going to be
clubhouse
a lot
guy.
cheaper. Good clubhouse guy for sure.
Yeah,
But he kind of tormented the Diamondbacks while he was in the NL West.
more
Um,
reason to have him on your side. Can't beat him,
More
join him.
reason to have him, right? But we'll see. And Pavin Smith's there too, right? If you get a first baseman, Smith is definitely going to DH because he's a left-handed bat. He doesn't have any options left.
Okay.
He's got great power. Definitely better against righties. If you look up his numbers against righties on Fangraphs, Baseball Reference, whatever is your cup of tea,
Hmm.
the numbers are legit. His underlying numbers are good. Um, and his OPS against righties is just like boing, like oh my god. Um,
See if I
like
can
he
get my
finally
stats.
broke out in a way in that second half last year. It's not over huge sample size, but Smith definitely showed out, and I think he's earned himself some playing time.
Yeah, he's I'm trying to see here. I was just gonna look up his splits. He has 28, so it's like you got to break out now, you know,
Yeah,
or else. But let's see, 2024 versus lefties 200 versus righties 282. Yeah, quite a big difference. And home, he hits 281 on the road, hits 260. Uh,
yeah.
and 286 versus righties at home. It seems like on the road he's not very good, so he shouldn't be going anywhere.
Well, that sample also isn't huge. It's
No, yeah,
15 games at home, 20 games away.
yeah,
There's not a lot of judgments you can make on 86 plate appearances, but even home and away, his OPS away, it was I think his SOPS here on Baseball Reference 173. Um, OPS at home 122. That batting average 260 batting average, but the OPS 977 away. And an 802 at home as well. The first half, second half splits are kind of huge because he did play more in the second half and he was up more, got more chances.
yeah,
But he certainly showed himself off as an option for the team going forward. And I think it's somebody that they've wanted to make work for a long time because he was a top prospect, first round draft pick. Picked higher than Corbin Carroll even. And if he can truly break out, he's a big asset to have, right?
yeah, yeah. I, I don't see him going anywhere. I think he's a good fit as an everyday player. It's weird because the Diamondbacks seem to have a lot of players that outside of the circle of Arizona, they're not big names,
Yeah.
but they're going to put up numbers similar, if not better, than the big names. Pavin Smith is a
Hmm.
good example of it. I don't understand that his sample size is a little bit smaller because he's not every day, but if he's sustaining that, then you have a Christian Walker at that point. Not exactly
Hmm.
the power, but the rest of the numbers, your production levels are going to be similar numbers. Um, but you mentioned relief pitcher, and I am assuming you put that into priority levels. So if I
Yeah.
am looking at getting a relief pitcher, are we talking closer? You're looking for a closer to replace Seawald?
Yeah, almost certainly. I mean, the D-backs have AJ Puck and Justin Martinez, who are both elite,
Yeah.
and I mean top of the line. But they aren't really traditional closer material. I mean, Justin Martinez, I think he's 22 now, 22 years old, and it was his real first true year in the league. I think he came up a little bit in 23,
Okay.
but he was electric. You know, he had a sub 1 ERA for most of the first half.
I had him on my fantasy
Um,
team. He was great.
yeah.
It was great. I
Um,
was like, nobody wants
you
him.
know,
Throw him
it
on.
was it was really the whenever he gets put in that closer spot, you know, a little nerves, the youthful nervousness, right? But stuff wise, he's there. AJ Puck, uh, similar deal almost. I mean, he started out as a starter with Miami last year, kind of sucked as a starter, and got transitioned into a reliever. And after that, it was like, boom, 1 point something ERA as a reliever for them.
Hmm.
Got traded over to Arizona, was even better.
Yeah.
Just fantastic trade. Looked like an Amish giant out on the mound with that red beard there.
And the
Um,
weird disproportionate belly long leg,
oh
just it's so
yeah, it
weird.
was. It was. He's got some proportions, but you know he's an incredible pitcher and
And those
a
eyes.
solid dude. Yeah, he stares you down. That's an intimidating presence on the mound, right? If
Yeah.
you're coming out of the opposing dugout and you're like,
Hmm.
"What the hell am I looking at right now?"
Yeah.
It's
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 it,
gonna shake you up a little bit.
would you say, I mean, I'm just looking at, if I were to go off of Spotrac specific previous war for
Mhm,
last season, the top relief pitchers that are still available, the most expensive is, if we do the top three, is 5.7 million, which was the previous AV. Whether their market is the same, no, it's way more, of course. We're looking at Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, Jeff Hoffman, and then an idea that I had was Carlos Estevez, or Estevez, however you want to say it, because
mhm.
he is 31, while the others are, I guess they're all about 30, but Kirby Yates being 37, he's going to be 38 rolling into next season. And after having an amazing season with Texas, surprisingly, his market value is only 6 mil. Um,
Yeah.
who would you say would be the best fit for that third spot in the 1, 2, 3 relief like position or closer?
Well, you know, I would love to have Tanner Scott.
Okay.
I'd love to, right?
Of course, his market value
Um,
is like 19 million,
I just
16.
he's at that point. You probably tack on a couple million, get yourself a Christian Walker, right?
Yep.
But or even just for probably that same value in a shorter deal, you're getting a Jock Peterson,
Hmm.
and right. So I think that Tanner Scott's probably a little bit unrealistic. However, some of those names that you said, Carlos Estevez, great, great pitcher. I mean, he was awesome for the Phillies in the second half. 2023 until he ran into Cade Marlowe. He was great for the Angels as well.
Hmm.
Um, I think that he would make a lot of sense going to the D-backs. They need that closer, like an actual closer with some closer experience. I know a lot of D-backs fans are going to get flashbacks to Mark Melanson and second half Paul Sewald from last year. Um, you know, you can't just put a guy in there. It's been a franchise curse going all the way back to Byung Hyun Kim in the 2001 season. You know, blowing every road game in the 2001 World Series. It was. I mean,
Thank
the
God for
storylines
Luis
are there.
Gonzalez.
Yeah, yeah. Thank God for Gonzo, because
Hmm.
I mean, it would have been a bad narrative, right? Um,
I think it saved him.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But you know, I mean, he's a guy that I would love to have in Estevez and a Yates. You know, Kirby Yates also, he's a veteran guy. Health not so reliable. But if you go back to that season he had with the Padres a couple years back, elite. Another dude that I would love on the team, closer experience. He was that guy for the Rangers last year. He was a stud, absolutely awesome. David Robertson would be a name that exists out there on the market. I'm not sure that that's a type of guy that the D-backs would want to go for, you know, a little bit older. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Right? There's a lot of names out there. You
Yeah.
can't be sure what they're looking for, what they're looking at. but I can tell you those are certainly all names that I'm sure that Mike Hazen's explored, that they've checked in on. And I'm sure that they're going to want to go for something like that. I'm not positive that it's going to be through free agency either. There's some trade guys out there. I know Ryan Helsley was available and might not be now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another name to look out for. Some other big closer chips on the market, and the D-backs certainly have to trade capital to get it done.
Well, I mean, you bring this up, and I'm kind of curious as far as trade pieces, because there's been talks as far as Seattle goes on our side, because it seems like the Diamondbacks and the Mariners are just farm systems for each other. Um, Andre Munoz,
I
but
was going to bring him up.
yeah, okay.
I figured, to be respectful to you, that I'd leave his name out of the conversation,
I'm
but
not. I am not high on. I don't get me wrong. He's our guy, and for the price that we're paying, he's an amazing closer to have. But he has blown some games, and he's blown enough games to where it has ultimately in 2024 killed our chances at playoffs. And I'm personally high on Matt Brash.
mm,
So I would be perfectly okay with Matt Brash being my closer, because to me, Matt Brash is the Tanner Scott. He is the uh, I want to make the reference because it's a good one. Adams with the Padres. Um, he is that high leverage arm that could take the closing position that I have more faith in. I understand he's coming off Tommy John, but if he's healthy, I'd rather have him there. The question is, for the Diamondbacks, who are you sending over that's fair? And are the Diamondbacks
can I
oh
interest you in one Jordan Montgomery?
no.
No, no, but
No.
yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, the Mariners aren't looking for a prospect package, right? They need major league ready guys. They need major league ready bats.
Yeah.
And you know, if you look, I mean, Pavin Smith maybe it could. But at that point,
Has
Tristan Casas makes a lot more sense for him for a starting pitcher at that point.
has I gotta
Uh,
look that up. How has Pavin Smith even played in Seattle?
no, I don't believe so, and I'm not sure why the Mariners would think that he could handle hitting through the marine layer
No, I
with
don't
his
think
track
so.
record.
Yeah.
It's really hard to put a package there together there, and maybe a third team could get involved.
We'll
That
take
might
Ketel
take some
Marte back.
prospects. Yeah, I'm sure that I think that one might be the final straw to get Jerry's number blocked there.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of complications there, and it's always hard to figure out a true trade package.
Mhm.
But that one's tough because previously, um, I mean, even the Suarez trade last year, I didn't see that one coming. I didn't see them getting that easy of a package done. With I think that one was Sebi Zavala and a reliever prospect,
Yeah.
right? And neither of them were very good for you guys. And
Neither of them are
Gino
even with the
went on to
team.
tear it up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But he it was a strikeout rate that was too high. It was a bad mixture. I
A
think
lot of money.
there's something wrong. There's something wrong organizationally as far as the morale there. 2022 it was great, and then 23 something changed. Something was missed because Teo couldn't hit, Suarez couldn't hit. I mean, Kellenic was a lost cause from the beginning. I don't know why he was hyped up to be what he is. As you saw him in Atlanta, was he fell on his face, even though the Braves were like, yeah, this is awesome. And he was talking about how much better the Braves organization is than the Mariners, and it's like, no, it was you, Jared. Like, you have anger issues, and you're too immature to better yourself. And and now it's like I don't know, there's just this vibe with the team that just can't seem to get out of a funk. It seemed great at the beginning of the season, but they were in this mindset, oh, we got to move these players out that strike out too much, and we got to get other people in, and that didn't work out obviously at all. The offense got worse in 2024, but I don't know. I know there's the problem with those two as far as Andre Munoz going to Arizona is that we have an excess amount of outfielders, and so do you. So
Yeah, that's the real issue because the major league caliber pieces we could send over would be outfielders, and we
mhm,
saw that with Dominic Canzone too. I mean, he's
mhm,
he's with you guys now,
mhm.
and you guys can't even find a place for him,
Yeah, he's in
right?
AAA.
That's
Um, well, and so here's the thing. I feel like if something were to work out, it would be uh, that you guys would have to take Haniger's contract,
hmm
and then you give us like a number 15 prospect that's going to be MLB ready in 3 years. That
you
would be
know even
my guess.
even that. I mean, the Haniger does have a lot of money on his deal,
Yeah.
but Munoz also has a ton of control.
Hmm.
It's what drives that price up.
Yeah.
So it, I'm sure there would be
Drew
more than
Jones.
one top prospect. If you want to fix Drew Jones, I mean, I'm sure the Diamondbacks organization would tell you be my guest
Is he
because at
struggling?
this point it's really tough. It's tough.
Is Drew Jones
It's
doing
been
bad?
it's been up and down, right? I mean, he showed some signs of really finding his way last year, and it just went back. It's been injury and never really getting a chance to find his footing, and
Yeah,
some problem of his feet flying open. So
yeah, he did. He did good. He did good in last season, 275
yeah,
average. It's 2023 that was horrible.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's why
Well,
his
how about
value went
this?
way down.
How about Munoz for Lawler? Straight up.
Um, straight up, I'm sure the D-backs might look at that one for sure, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Lawler, the issue there is finding a place for him because Perdomo really broke out. Maybe they
Hmm.
start to transition Lawler into a third baseman. Um, but yeah, sure. I mean, Lawler, he could fix that second base hole up immediately, right?
Yes.
Third
Yeah.
base, wherever you want him,
Yeah.
plays elite defense. The bat's there.
Hmm.
Um, came up a little bit end of 23. Didn't have a great early stint.
Hmm.
But that's just what happens when you get exposed to major league pitching when
Hmm.
you're a young guy. But he went down back to the minors in 24, tore it up. Had some injury troubles there with a leg too, and that got re-aggravated. But great player.
Yeah, that would be. I would be on board with that. I would. I would not have an issue with it. JP Crawford is hitting the end. And just in the meantime, second base fix. Lawler's 100% over what I would see Ryan Bliss there. But Perdomo, how much control does he have?
Perdomo's still under a lot of club control.
So he's not
Um,
moving anytime soon.
no, and he's the cheerleader of the team, right? He's the on-field leader.
Yeah.
He's really the main guy there almost on the infield. Not from a playing standpoint, but he's the last guy to leave a mound visit. He's the first guy that's out there. He's letting the dugout know if something needs like some change. He's communicating with everyone. He's not behind the railing. He's in front of it when a guy hits a home run, hyping everyone up, jumping
Yeah.
around. He really found his groove in 23, all-star in 23.
Hmm.
Um, Not a lot of power, but excellent defense. When a ball's hit to him, it's an out. and that's a big deal for Arizona. You know, their philosophy is defense first, good people, and you know, they're finding their pitching and offense as well.
Yeah.
And Perdomo fits that mold perfectly, what they've wanted, and I don't think that they're going to move him off short. I think they're going to want to keep him there probably.
Well, talk to your contacts and get call the Mariners up.
I'd love him to call on Munoz,
Yeah.
right?
I
But
don't see
I
why the Mariners would say no to that.
I don't think I have any sway in that discussion
No,
for sure.
yeah. Well, I like to think that you do, so I'm just gonna say that.
I
Uh,
would love it if I did. I mean, I'd call up Jerry DePoto and tell him, hey, why don't you just send us Andres Munoz and I'll buy you a nice steak dinner, right? You know,
yeah,
on the
yeah.
house.
That's how it's gonna work. Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's how trades work, right?
yeah, yeah. Steak dinner, and you're gonna sign this piece of paper. Hey, you don't need to read it. You'll be fine.
Yeah,
Um,
it's all good.
as far as kind of like two more things we can wrap them in together. I wanted to kind of mention um, what's what's going on with Corbin Carroll. Is it was it a fluke? Are we looking for a bounce back? What's the deal with him? Because it feels like he was outplayed in 2024 over everyone. He seemed to have from my perspective, a Julio Rodriguez season where it's just not what his rookie season was. And was it injury? Was it something that was not being reported he was playing through? Did we just see his ceiling and now we're seeing his floor? What's up?
I would tell you to check his second half statistics, and check the All MLB nominations because Corbin Carroll ended up finding his way there after having a sub 200 batting average in the first half
Yeah.
because he absolutely broke out, ended up hitting over 20 home runs. You know, the stolen bases weren't quite there. He was kind of slow while he was figuring it out, trying not to push things too much. But I mean, he figured things out. You know, we did see his floor in the first half. There was a hole in his swing, and he was trying to fix that hole in his swing, and that was a big deal. People were just throwing balls up and inside, and he couldn't hit them. He just physically couldn't for some reason.
It's
Um,
exactly what I'm trying to say when it comes to Julio. Because
yeah,
for Julio, it was the second half versus the first half of the season where,
and in the second half, Corbin flipped the switch,
yeah.
and things just he fixed the hole. He started hitting. It started with extra base hits, right? He was in the middle of things. Uh, doubles and triples where you really saw, okay, he's finding his power,
Hmm.
and then he started elevating the ball and it went over the fence. um, and yeah, you know, he started finding that rookie of the year form again, but slowly, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty late because I mean he ended the season with a 231 average and it was slugging 428, which
Yeah,
is good, but his OPS is was down by 100 points compared to the previous
absolutely.
season.
You
So
know, he
you
had,
think he's going to roll with that into 2025 though, like where
I
he's
sure
figured
hope
it
so.
out? Do you think?
You know, the power is legit from such a small frame, and you know, from such a bad start to the year to still finishing with an above average OPS plus, and 3.4 WAR
Yeah,
is, you know, that's a big deal.
yeah,
You
huge.
know, taking such a rough season and being able to turn it around, that's huge from a young player like that, and to get that confidence back.
Yeah.
Um, I think we're gonna see another good season from Carroll. You know, I think his ceiling is untapped, and I don't think that we've seen what we can see from him. I don't think that Rookie of the Year season showed us all we could have because he was dealing with a shoulder injury that year. Um, and you know, the combination of speed and athleticism and power and on base ability and bat to ball skills, and that's just, I mean, what more can you ask for from a young player like that?
Hmm.
And you know, they got him on a team friendly extension. I think he's going to roll with it. I think we're going to see more of the true Corbin Carroll. And if I'm wrong, I that would suck. Right?
For a lack of
But it's
better terms.
possible.
Yeah, I
You
mean, it
know,
would suck if it wasn't. I like Corbin Carroll. I think he's great for this team. He's that rookie star franchise face that I think the team needed, aside from Marte, who I think Marte is awesome. It's so weird
mm,
how there's so much connection between
the
Seattle.
Mariners and D-backs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have Cattell traded
Gino, Seawald,
Gino Seawald, and
Haniger.
Corbin Carroll's born in Seattle.
Yeah.
Like it's very weird, the whole dynamic. It's like this is the team that the Mariners should have, but they don't.
Hmm.
But okay, I mean it's good. I'm glad you have a positive kind of like vibe for what he's going to be able to
I'm
do.
I'm an eternal optimist. You know, if you ask the other SI guys, they'll be in the group chat, all dooming and listing these stats of why a player is like he's bound to have a terrible time, and I'm out there like it's okay, guys, he'll figure it out.
You're the optimist.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
the
an optimist.
balance. You're the balance
I
to the
have to balance the
negativity.
force.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you look at stats and underlying numbers, you can get way too concerned, and in a 162 game season, you can get down really easily. And I feel that too. You know, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to watch baseball anymore. Like this sucks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then things turn around, and you're like, okay, I see why I enjoyed this, and my team's actually good again. And you love the players, right? There's a reason why we watch baseball, and I think part of it is the ebbs and flows, right? The peaks and valleys. And I'm the kind of guy that enjoys that whole ride.
And that's the fun part of it. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to ask you to leak anything you know you can't release, but is there anything that would get Diamondbacks fans super pumped that you could share?
I don't. I honestly don't know right now. Things are
Okay.
so silent.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Hazen was telling us, the head of Diamondbacks on SI, Jack Summers. He's over in Dallas right now at the winter meetings. He spoke with Mike Hazen earlier. Um, and we have some great stories up on our site that detail a lot of those conversations. I think there's one on Hazen addressing the media, but we try to publish everything we find out, or at least most of it. Um,
Everything you can.
a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot going on right now. I mean, at least that we know of. I know with the Erod signings, last year it was on the last day of the winter meetings, and people were packing stuff up, and all of a sudden this thing drops when a couple hours earlier Hazen had gone and said, yeah, nothing's really close right now. And it's like, okay, man,
Yeah.
sure.
Thanks for
So
that.
you're never 100% positive, but
Yeah.
sometimes you get an inkling that something might be going on behind the scenes, right? Where
Yeah.
everything's like too quiet. And you're like, okay, something's brewing. Um, there's like whispers, you'd like to see something happen here. And I think that things will probably get going soon. There's been more extended talks, there's been more detailed talks on certain things. You're really narrowing in on the market. You're starting to get more hitters coming off the market now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we saw
Dominoes
Michael
falling now.
Conforto
Yeah.
recently. I mean, Juan Soto is the big one,
Yeah.
but I think Michael Conforto is pretty relevant to the D-backs market right now with the DH and first basemen. That offensive piece.
Yeah.
And I think we could start seeing some stuff moving pretty soon. So I hope Diamondbacks fans are excited to see what this team turns into as I am, because I really think that the D-backs are going to have a good team. I mean, you forget they won 80 what was it, 84 games last year?
It was last
No,
season.
89 games.
89.
89.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I mean,
forget the number. I
they dropped the
they've
ball
won a lot of games and they dropped the ball in the last week.
the very last week. Yeah,
Um,
that was it.
and they can turn it around really easily with just one good year.
And where they stand now, obviously, I shouldn't
Mhm.
say obviously, but I'm gonna go with my very obvious
Uh-huh.
situation. They are in the running for second place in the NL West.
Mhm.
I'm not I'm not gonna
Okay.
get I'm not gonna give them first. Um, at this
Mhm.
point, just looking at the juggernaut that you have to deal with in the NL
Yeah.
West. Um, but with
Ah,
the Padres, looks like they're selling Cease. They haven't said a
it's
word to
possible.
Profar. They haven't really signed. They don't have Higashioka anymore, so Capisano, I guess, is taking over. Um, it I'm a I'm a Padres fan, and it's not looking good. And I think this is an opportunity for the Diamondbacks to take a 1 or 2 seed in the wild card race in 2025. And I think they have the offense to do it if it carries over into 2025 as is, I think. But for them to be competitive in the playoffs, I do think they need a bat, and I think they need like you said, a closer, because right now I don't AJ Puck would be fine, but there should be a 1, 2, 3.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. I think they need it. They won 89 games last year. They won 84 the year before.
Yeah.
It's a huge. That was 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
5 games. That's huge. I
Yeah.
mean, 89 games. How often do you see an 89 win team miss the playoffs?
Yeah.
Not a lot.
The biggest threat that they're going to have is the Giants, as they won 80 and lost 82 last season. They've made some
I'm
adjustments.
not in on the Giants for sure. I'm not in on them. 80
No.
games they won last year. I think the Padres are still going to be there.
Well, that's also with injuries when it comes to the Giants. It's
I agree. Yeah.
they lost Lee. They didn't really have a second baseman. Estrada was terrible. Lamont Wade was their guy in the beginning, and he just kind of tapered off. They've made some
Conforto
changes.
was there.
Yeah, Conforto was
Conforto's with
there.
the Dodgers now.
Yeah, that is true, and it's just a matter of who they're going to pick up, because the Willie Adames thing, I think, is a huge asset
Oh
for
yeah.
them. And Tyler Fitzgerald, if he slides over to second, I think they have a very solid offense on the infield. I think they
hmm
need somebody for first, and they have the money for it, and then also one more outfielder. But besides that, because I don't trust McRae, I don't think that's a good left field option for
They need
them.
some pitching too. They need to make a
Yeah,
splash in the pitching market. I've heard them be connected to Corbin Burns.
I heard
Um,
that a lot too.
and if they get Corbin Burns, that's gonna change my opinion on the Giants a lot,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
They're losing Snell, but I think they need a big pitcher to solidify it, and they need some more offense because that lineup drops off so heavily. I mean, you have an awesome top of it. I mean,
yeah,
you have Chapman, Adames, you have Jung Hoo Lee, who's a super fun and exciting player.
hmm
As much as I hate to say it, I mean, Patrick Bailey can maybe figure some things out. I'm a Gabby Moreno lover, not a Patrick Bailey fan over here, but
yeah,
um, I think he's a good player from like he's got some defense, he's got some pop. He hurts the D-backs. He's a good guy behind the plate for the Giants. That infield can be dangerous, and they can get 1 or 2 pieces, and it'll change a lot of things for them.
yeah. And
And
I don't think
if
they're done, especially with Buster Posey in charge.
Buster
And
Posey
for
changes
your
a lot.
sake, I hope Corbin Burns signs with the Red Sox.
Oh, yeah, yeah, or the Orioles, keep them over in the American League East,
I don't think the
far away.
Orioles are going to spend the money.
I don't know. New ownership, we'll see.
Yeah, but they just dropped how much on O'Neill, and they have
That's
plenty of
true.
pitching. Like, they're gonna have all their guys back. Kyle Bradish should be back. Grayson Rodriguez should be properly healed and healthy. And I mean, you still have uh, why am I blanking right now? Their ace. Well, besides Corbin Burns, Bradish.
hmm
So
Yeah.
they have a good rotation. They could pick up another one, but I don't know. I would be surprised if the Orioles were in on Corbin Burns, especially with the market right now. As you mentioned, the very beginning of this podcast is
Yep.
the cost is very high.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love watching other teams' free agency too, not just the D-backs. I get super excited when I see the passing notifications.
yeah.
Um,
That's what we're hitting refresh for. That's all we're here for. It's
I keep looking off. If anyone sees me like looking off to the bottom left, it's because I have my phone here and I'm just constantly scrolling to look.
just trying to see what's going to happen.
I have
Everything
the
is just a repost.
notifications on. We're in here, but you know,
Yeah,
it's definitely exciting. Being in the off season again, and trade deadline season's one of my favorite times too.
yeah.
As a writer too, there's so many exciting things I love. Like we could get this player. Like this player would be a good fit. I
Mm,
used to run a series called Diamonds in the Rough on Good Morning Baseball, my old site,
okay.
and we used to look at every free agent target, whether it's free agency or trades, and I would go in super in depth on each one and how they would fit in the D-backs. We're doing similar stuff on Diamondbacks on SI now, with free agent targets.
Hmm.
And that's one of my favorite things to do, right? Just look at a player, see like how would this guy fit into the team, even if it's unrealistic. Like I did a Dylan Cease one last year. Um, it's fun to do, and it's fun to look at these guys.
That could be a possibility.
Not this year. The Padres are not trading to the D-backs. You can forget that one.
They could if it means getting what they want, and you guys have a lot. You might have someone that will replace Profar if they're not looking to sign him, if he's asking too much. So I don't give up. I would say I know it's unlikely, but I've been surprised by the
We'll
D-backs.
trade Cease to the Mariners, and then the Mariners will send Cease to us along with Andres Munoz, and we'll send you guys like I don't know, some peanuts, right?
Oh yeah, that's a
And
great
some
that's a great deal.
and
That
five
sounds
dollars, right?
steak dinner.
Steak dinner,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, steak dinner. All right, hey Aaron, thank you again for joining me on here. It's been fun. We're an hour in, so whoever is
Hmm.
listening, if you're catching up, please go check him out on Twitter. I'll put all of his links down below. Also, all of his articles on Sports Illustrated or SI. And then when I know your website's having a little bugs, but when it's available, go check out also Good Morning Ball. It's also going to be linked into his Twitter account or on X. So thank you, dude, for coming. This was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed talking some ball. Cool to check out your content. You do great work.
Thank you, man.
With some other good people. My friend Jake, he was
Yeah.
on here recently.
Yeah. Shout out to Jake.
Um,
He's the reason why I was
at
able to
Raise the
reach out to you.
Trident. Yep.
Yep. I raised the trident. So thank you, Jake, for I guess indirectly linking us up. So that's awesome. No, it's a good way to explore and talk to other people and get their opinions, and especially with different organizations, because I really do want to branch out from just Mariner content. So this is awesome to kind of get some Diamondback uh content out there for everybody out there and in the good old desert. So
Absolutely. I mean, you're wearing the Serpientes jersey. You got the D-backs hat on. It's awesome. I mean, I have my Corbin Carroll shirt down here, but you can't really see it.
it's a
Uh,
little low. And I also have the Corbin Carroll signed jersey right there.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah.
I
Or
I
no,
saw
sorry, that's
Bobby
Bobby
Witt.
Witt. This one.
Yeah,
That's
that one's Carroll. Yeah,
everything's
the
backwards on
sevens.
my monitor. So trying to set that up. But all right, awesome, man.
Yep,
Let's do this again if you're
absolutely.
interested.
Just
And
reach out to me. We'll get something worked out.
all right,
I'd be
sounds good.
happy to come back on.
Maybe a little bit right before kind of spring training and stuff, and see where we're at and
Oh
compare and
yeah.
contrast. So
Hmm.
all right. I appreciate it, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude.
All right. Everybody, comment down below, like the video, share with your friends, and we'll see y'all later.